Dad, what is procrastination? What does it mean? Temba's son Sipo asked him. I will tell you later, said Temba. Good evening and welcome to Game Changer on Talk with Rams Live. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as Talk with Rams. Do follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube page, Talk with Rams. If you subscribe to the page and take a picture of your subscription and send it to admin@talkwithrams.com, you qualify for a 50% discount on Dr. Tando Sibanda's book, The Winning Mindset. Take advantage of it. Talk with Rams is brought to you by Canna Coffee, the most delicious and best tasting coffee with extreme health benefits. Manufactured by Canna Coffee Company, this coffee has potent, creamy, and long-lasting flavors which are low in acidity and delightfully romantic. I don't know about that. No, I look romantic, I drink it. So to buy Canna Coffee or acquire the Canna Coffee franchise, call 082-730-4112, 082-730-4112. You too can be part of this platform through your own product or service. You can place it right here, sponsor the entire show, or a feature like Game Changer, Opportunity Tuesday. Just write to admin@talkwithrams.com. Excuse me. Now, the Game Changer. Let me introduce you to my guest. I was raised in a small village, Upper Tabase, 35 kilometers outside Mthatha, Eastern Cape. I'm 29 years of age and the oldest out of 3 siblings, raised by a single mother to sacrifice everything for our education. Grew up around subsistence farming, but never thought I'd be where I am today, farming commercially and playing an active role towards developing other Black young farmers like myself within my province. I'm extremely passionate, I repeat, I'm extremely passionate about agriculture and the potential it has to transforming rural economies, but also ensuring poverty alleviation in our rural communities. Agriculture to me is the saving grace for our provincial and national economic turmoil. His name is Sinelizwi Fakade. Udlamini. He joins us tonight. I've been waiting for so long. Molo Mhlekazi.
Kunjani tata?
Ndiphilile Nkosi, kunjani ku?
No, ndiyaphila nami. Ndiyabulela elithuba ndibulise nakubaphulaphuli nakubalandeli bethu.
Inkosi kakhulu Mhlekazi. I also appreciate you. Freddie and I will attest to the fact that you rushed from the farm. You connected with us in the car, rushing home to make sure that you are punctual. Siyayibulela loo nto Mhlekazi.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot, James.
But most importantly, I'm happy that you did not leave the farm for us. We want the food. The food is more important.
No, definitely. Still loading trucks of maize. We'll probably finish at about 12 midnight tonight. So wow. I thought I could give half an hour to a very important platform to really motivate and to really tell the story that does exist.
And on behalf of our followers, I'm very grateful for that. Let's start the story of Usinekala before we go to the bigger story of farming. I spoke a bit about yourself, read a bit of your profile, but tell me more about where you grew up. And it was subsistence, so it was not agriculture for commercial reasons. It was for food, for people to eat and survive. But at that time, did you ever think maybe I should go this route?
Not at all, and I'll tell you why. Growing up, we obviously grew up in a rural village, a rural setting, where a lot of the community was under serious poverty circumstances. I grew up not necessarily experiencing poverty, but poverty was around me, and I was very fortunate enough not to have had the difficulties that I saw happening around me from a household perspective. So the burning desire of agriculture was never something that I can say was purely from the word go, but through advice from family members And obviously my mother, who, as I indicated, sacrificed a lot for who we are today as agriculturalists within the family. I think the rural setup gave us the backbone of what it takes to be someone. It actually motivated one to really punch above their weight when they got the opportunity to really enhance and advance their profile through education and obviously exposure to a sector which today I'm heavily involved in. So the upbringing, Rams, was really tough, but ultimately I'm glad for the lessons, negative and positive, because they've influenced the character which I am today.
But then you already then go on to matriculate at the Western Agri College. At that point, you had decided.
Yeah. So I'll go back to advice, and I'm very, very grateful for the family support that I had. I was very fortunate, in my upbringing to have been groomed by a role model of mine, who so happens to be my father, and his role was to really guide me. Someone who is an uncle by family setup, but I took him as a father, and some of the elements that he brought to my perception about seeing agriculture and seeing a career really influenced me to say, I can be someone. He gave us the opportunity to say, tap into an industry that a lot of Black people are not tapping into, and at the young age of matric, I never really understood what he was meaning. But as I went on in my education, I really got to see that, I could make a name for myself in this industry. We always grow up to be doctors, aspiring to be lawyers. But, agriculture for me was something that I had the opportunity to start at a very young age.
Which is ironic, Sine, because long before the 3 ships sailed here in 1652, we were the people of the land. We were farming. So, how we lost it and decided we were going to be lawyers and doctors and broadcasters beats me. Although broadcasting is important, I must say.
I think for me, Rams, in that perspective, I feel that it was a matter of exposure. If you look at agriculture today and the active commercial agriculture where it's taking place, those were areas that a lot of investment went into, a lot of repeated development initiatives went into, and today you've got hubs of common agricultural, or shall I say, highly commercial agricultural practice happening. So your Free States, for example, your Northwests, for example, those are provinces that, for me, had a lot of exposure through people. It was a situation where we were starved of the critical ways and practices that a person needs to be acquainted with from a business perspective to become the level of commercialization that is required today. So I think the spirit lives within a lot of us, and I can speak for the young people that I work with within my various initiatives. But it's a matter of just exposure, Rams. That's all I can say it comes down to, and that's what all Black people need: exposure and necessary support.
So this man, by the way, dear followers, goes on to obtain a national diploma in agriculture, follows it with a B.Tech degree in agriculture, B.Agric honors in agricultural extension and rural resource management, Masters of Agriculture degree in food security, and currently working on his PhD, sustainable agriculture. I mean, folks, the man just decided he's just gonna do this the hard way and the right way. But now you're on the farm, mate. When did it then begin? Did you do it while studying, or did you finish the first studies and then decided to get into farming? Tell us the story and how you got into it, because it's not a romantic story. Getting into farming is tough.
No, it's extremely. So there was education. Fast forward 7 years down the line, where obviously that's a number of years I've spent behind the desk, obviously barring now that I'm finishing off my studies or looking to finish off my studies. But where it all began was after my master's degree, I had the opportunity to work for Grain South Africa as a provincial coordinator. And my sole job was to commercialize Black grain producers of the Eastern Cape province throughout. Now, the Eastern Cape province, for the sake of your viewers, is made up of 6 districts, of which we were functioning then under 5, looking after 4,500 farmers which are rural based predominantly, and we were at least producing on 5,500 hectares across the areas that I've mentioned in terms of districts. So that was my sole job. And that opportunity laid the foundation for me to get exposed more to the industry. My exposure came from the private industry predominantly. And obviously combine that with passion, combine that with the ability to really understand what rural development was, given the fact that I had studied it. But ultimately now it was a situation of saying, how do I put what I know to practice? So for 3 years, until 2019, last year, I was a provincial coordinator. I then took the decision to resign. Mind you, for all this time, I was searching for funding. I've been declined at least 20 times with regards to applications. I was told to banks that my story needed more substance. Mind you, here I am walking into banks with nothing but my education and my passion. So there goes the challenge of barriers of entry for young people in the agricultural industry, more especially those who don't have any assets, or should I say, backing to really enter. So fast forward, Rams, one of the private investors trust my story and they back me. And they back me to an extent where they give me funding to purchase a farm, to purchase equipment, and to start an operation that today is 1,100 hectares in size. This happened in 2019, and my business of farming today is 12 months old, given the fact that I started last year. So fast forward 12 months later, it's an operation of that magnitude, specifically looking at grain production as a start. So I am on a farm. I've bought the land, I've bought the equipment, and I'm in my first cycle of production, obviously finishing off my harvesting, which has been an experience and a half.
Let's go back to the funding. Are you saying to me even the land bank couldn't come to fund you?
Rams, we could open up a talk show just for that specific issue. You know, the frustration that leads to people not being able to enter into agriculture is an absolute, I just don't find words to describe. And the problem that I've seen is that the expectation and the model of funding within the industry of agriculture is so conservative. And mind you, it's a system that was being implemented 40, 30, 25 years back. But yet the criteria of selection and how to look at an applicant in today is a system that was implemented, was being used for the last 20 years. With all due respect, it's time for change. So Land Bank, they submitted, one of the guys that obviously had various reasons for my declining in terms of my funding. So like I said, we could have an hour discussing the challenges that I had with regards to funding, but the most important thing is the systems need to change, Rams. We cannot be saying we want new entrant farmers. We want a transformed industry. We want equality within an industry that can turn around the economic nature of our country. Meanwhile, we are using obsolete tools to try and get new entrants into the system. It's from a developmental perspective, it's a hamstring. And a lot of the guys that can't enter the industry speak to the fact that it's difficult to get funding. I'm Exhibit A. I had to be declined. I had to, give up everything in terms of time and just nail at it. But the challenges exist and remain. We will never achieve transformation if the funding systems of this country for new entrants into this business remain what they are. Things need to change. The mindsets that are making decisions at credit level can't talk about gearing ratios for individuals that don't have assets to gear against. So those things need to change if we are to be achieving the objectives from a policy perspective that we look to achieve as an industry, but overall as a country.
I love that. I love that because when people have done or people are doing as well as you do, we all tend to assume, no, then, Sinelizwi is okay. He's doing fine. So he's not bothered about the issues. The fact that you're still concerned about the issues makes me very happy, because we have to stay concerned, especially those who are already in the game, so that we can agitate some more. And those of us who have the voice from where we sit, we should then take your story and spread it over so that more people hear about this thing, the frustrations that we go through. You know, I, by the way, for my sins, used to work for the land bank, but that's many years ago. And I'm saddened to hear that up to this point, the transformation is still not happening as it should happen. But let's park that one. We're not talking about them. We're talking about you.
Mm.
You got into grain. Was it because at the end of your studies, grain SA took you in, or your studies were already focused on grain?
My position as an individual is mixed farming. So all of my studies to date were animal as well as crop production over and above agricultural management. It's in its entirety. So
Yes.
so the reason why grain was a good stepping stone was because I understood grain, maize specifically, because that's what I have been working with. But because I combined my exposure with the opportunity of the education that I received, it was very easy for me to understand what is needed to start a farm. Mind you, you may know, the followers may know as well, you know, it's not easy. You're not even making significant profits in the first 5 years in this agricultural game, depending obviously on what type of a cropping system you have. But if you start tapping into higher value crops, Rams, that's obviously heavier investment. And obviously it's more of a medium to long-term investment, meaning that you'll only see your money average depending on what crop 7-8 years later. So from a grain perspective, I had to build a base. So there I was, I understood what maize was. I understood what sorghum was. I tapped into a crop called millet, as well as now looking into wheat and sunflower. So my operation is revolved around grains because it was the best way for me to build my business profile. However, in the 10-year plan that we have as a business, which is run by my family, might I add, everyone's involved, my brother's involved, my mom's involved. So the 10-year plan simply states we need to be obviously making money, but in a sustainable way, as well as working within the environment that we've been fortunate to be located in. So ultimately, that's why I started with grains. But diversification in agriculture is important. You cannot have your eggs in one basket. And the reason why our farmers don't get that opportunity, again, it goes back to what I said earlier, exposure and understanding diversification of production. So that's the only reason why I had the foundation of grains. But I am beyond grain from a planning perspective.
Great. So I had a little chat with you last night, and I said, you know, one of the things that saddens me about agriculture is that Sinelizwi wakes up at 4 a.m. I'm having too much sleep at that time. I'm still having a good time. He is working the whole day. He takes a break between 7:30 and 8 to do this show. He goes back to the farm until midnight. And then once he has harvested his stock, somebody somewhere decides the price of his stock. How do we solve this? I still have a problem with the fact that we farm for people who decide the value of our product.
I'm going to throw a cat amongst the pigeons here a little bit in this way. Of grain production, or should I say agriculture, is because for as long as we are supporting everything else but marketing and upstream from a value chain perspective, we will never achieve the economic balance that new entrants need to achieve. To this issue with regards to why aren't we funding the marketing? Why aren't we funding intensively the other side of the scale with regards to marketing, as well as to ensure that farmers are achieving returns that are enough for them to be viable to carry on? So you've obviously got the SAFEX system in the country. And from a grain perspective, you know, why aren't we looking at ways to give farmers the ability to make better returns? And the only way to do it, Rams, in my opinion, is to support from the marketing perspective. You know, per ton, I shouldn't be paying 600 Rand per ton to get my product to Johannesburg. That should be subsidized. I'm just making an example. The SAFEX price of maize, it's sitting at 2,800 Rand currently. You know, government should be saying, you know, is at least the new entrants or black farmers entirely, if you guys are producing enough maize, maybe we'll give you 300 Rand more than what the suffix is giving you, so that you get the income generation happening for you to be sustainable. So I think the reason why guys continue to make price, and obviously you can never be in a position to control everything. The pie is big enough for everyone, but realistically, the guys that are making the price are obviously the ones that are getting the creamier part of the cake, in all honesty. But ultimately, to change that, have the cushion system to support farmers to make better returns on their product, and obviously work out the sums from a value chain perspective. So we need more emphasis, in my opinion, to say, how are we, from an economic perspective, changing the game for new entrants or guys that are wanting to develop in their farming enterprise? And this is across the board, Rams, from veggie to livestock to grain. Look at the marketing perspective. I am aware that there are systems and programs in place from various levels of private and public sector. But how well is the emphasis happening? For me to say that I can conducively produce grain, I need to say, what is my price per ton? And if it looks handsome, I can be a commercial grain farmer. If it doesn't look handsome, I have to diversify, because at the end of the day, this is a business and not a hobby, unfortunately.
Sadly, before 1994, that's what the National Party did. They marketed the product or the produce of the white farmers. They had the National Agricultural Marketing Council, and that's what they did. How we are not doing the same beats me. But again, that's another show for another time. We'll get to that at some point. But yes. Let me read a question. There's a question here from Stephen, which is very pertinent. Stephen Muledi says, do you think it's possible for one to do farming as a side business, especially in the beginning stages? Or is farming one of those that require you to be all in solely and focused on it?
I think for me, in my opinion, farming, it's either, if you want to do it commercially and from a business perspective, and I think it's across the board from any other business, it's either you do it and you commit to it, or you don't even start at all. And the reason I say that is because this type of industry is time consuming. You consistently have to be 3 steps ahead of the game. You never know when you're going to get a fire outbreak whilst your maize is dry and you're harvesting. You've done 500 hectares, then you get a fire that's going to burn out 200 hectares. Crop insurance is an expensive exercise. Again, a debate for another day. So for me, in what I've learned, and the reason why I'm progressing, or I'm looking to progress at the level that I plan to, is because I'm giving 110% of my time to my business, in this particular instance being agriculture. So it's either all in or don't start at all. Subsistence is a different game. Backyard is a different game. But from a business perspective, the bigger it goes in terms of growth, the more attention it requires.
Except you are not telling the whole truth, because it's not 100%. You're also giving your other time to other people, which is why you're here. I mean, you give to other people. Your foundation has dedicated time to mentoring other smallholder farmers, mate. I mean, where do you get the time? How is it that you do it?
No, so when I was at Grain SA, obviously upon my resignation, besides the farming opportunity, I had a team that I developed of young agricultural graduates, which were graduates from provincial institutions, Fort Hayes and Fort Cox and the like. It was about, at the start, there were 20 of them, and then the number's grown to 36. So I groomed them to be mentors in the first year upon them being accepted. And this partnership, significantly Rams, was the first of its kind in the province. This whole initiative of mentoring, or should I say, developing the mentor, was funded by the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, Dr. Da, in the province, which I facilitated between Grain SA when I was still there. So fast forward a year later, upon my resignation, those mentees call it quits with Grain SA as well. Mainly because obviously it was a situation of saying, where to post Grain SA? It wasn't Grain SA was falling apart or whatever. I think the time had come for something new, in my opinion. So we then formed Ukhanyo Farmer Development, which today I am chairman of. And we run it with 35 other young agricultural graduates, 90% of them being young women. The significance here, Rams, is they know what they're doing. They have been exposed to the field, and they've combined their education with what they know. And today, you've got a profile of an individual who can be a very good project beneficiary with regards to land reform and agricultural development programs, which haven't gone really north in terms of success. Today, you've got an individual who can be an extension officer who's been exposed from a technical and from a production perspective. So the time I get to that is because I've got a very strong team behind me who have given me the opportunity to lead this organization. We formed it, it's 10 months old, and we're looking to support at least 1,500 farmers this coming season through production.
Jeez, mate. That's amazing. That's amazing. And I'll tell you why it's amazing. For me, it's not only amazing because giving, not many people give and you're giving, but it's also amazing because you are involved in a time-intensive industry to run your own farm first, but to even have that little conscience to say, I gotta give to other people. I gotta make sure that other people also achieve the success. I honor you for that. I mean, I watched you in a conversation with my friend, Angie Kumalo, and how you spoke about your passion, how you even said, anybody who believes they can farm, I can help them. Let them tell me, and I can tell them how to do it efficiently. And that for me was something else. And I'm hoping people are listening. I'm hoping when we're done here, because I only have 30 minutes with you, and because I want to respect your work, you have to go back and farm. But I hope people get in touch and really learn from you. But for you personally, what's next? You started now, it's been a year. What's in the 10-year horizon?
Oh, gee, for me, Rams, it's just to really be, a catalytic example of what happens when you give someone an opportunity within an industry. I think for me, personally, is obviously grow my business and to really be not a participator of agriculture, but a decision maker of the industry. That's what I'm after. And to make decisions for the best interest of farmers, regardless of what spectrum. Furthermore, it's to simply, have a contribution actively, Rams. And I'm very passionate about the Eastern Cape. And I'll tell you why. One, it's considered the next breadbasket of the country, given its climatic conditions and its availability of land. The second thing is that I think it's a province that's been starved of agricultural exposure for a long time. And for me to be able to bring that, private sector knowledge and private sector investment is something that I'm working towards, obviously over and above the fact that it's growth of my business being paramount. So for me, 10 years from now, I need to be obviously have a very flourishing business with regards to agriculture or farming in its entirety, but also have the opportunity to actively contribute to steering the industry into the new era. I think the COVID-19 virus has forced us to rethink how we do things and how we look at things. And I think agriculture is one of the saving graces when it comes to economic turnaround for the country, but ultimately for the province as well. So that's where I am 5-10 years from now.
Excellent. Undimpiwe Sobantu uti, where are you in the Eastern Cape?
I'm based in Umtata with the work, but my farm is in the Maclear area. Great.
Stephen is asking further. He says, how easy is it to get into the value chain? Nothing is easy, Stephen, but he continues, does me having land and planting maize guarantee me entry into the value chain? And what's the market like? Very long, many questions, but answer whichever one you can answer in the little time that we're left with.
No, I think most importantly, I, for one, am going to be tapping actively into the value chain. And that's purely because obviously that's where the rands and cents are with regards to return. But I think you have to build a base of production. You have to justify agro-processing from a plant perspective, because it's an expensive investment as well. So justification in terms of Stephen's question would come to say, land and maize and getting access to equipment of the latest technology, that's just the portion of the answer. Otherwise, you have to put that together to ensure that you justify the need for secondary production or investment thereof. So it can happen. It needs to happen for us to be actively, participants and decision makers of the industry at large.
My brother, I was going to ask you a question, but I'm actually going to give you an instruction. I think you must launch and host a platform like this one on agriculture. I think your knowledge and your determination about this industry is priceless. You need to do this thing. You need to take this out and literally become a celebrity agriculturist so that people learn from somebody who knows it. Sometimes, personally, I get very affronted when people become celebrities in industries that they don't know because Sine is not doing it. They go do it. They make the money. And for me, it's not necessarily about the money, but I think when somebody like you does it, it gives credibility to the industry. You need to do this. Guys, get into the man's Facebook and see the pictures there, see the work he does. Imagine if this was a show that he does, even if it's once a month. You don't have to do it daily like me. This is my bread and butter. I do it every day. But I beg you, my brother, to do it. I wish you all the best. And I mean it when I say you're a game changer. I love your work. I truly appreciate you. And thank you for every moment you've spent with us and the insights you've shared with us.
Thanks a lot, Rams, and thanks for the opportunity. And I will consider your proposal, working closely to those that can afford me the opportunity. But I'm not alone, and my job is just to share the light, or should I say, shine the light for the rest to follow. So I'll take it as a blessing, and I'll take it as a words of comfort and confidence in what I do. I really appreciate it, and thank you for the time. And really looking forward to further engagements as we move along year on year or month on month, day on day.
Dlamini, siyabulela. And when you start that program and you're still battling, Freddie and I are here to help you. We can help you launch that product. Do not worry about it. Thank you very much, folks, for tuning in. I appreciate it. We have seen your numbers. Please go to Facebook. Look for Sinelizwi Fakade. He's also on Instagram. He's all those platforms. Look at his work. But most importantly, get in touch and see how you can help. Rather, you can work with him. But most importantly, I saw somebody say how you can buy from him. Somebody said, I'll go get a bag too. Please go buy his maize and his crops because that's how we will all grow. Next week, Monday, Dr. T is back. He's hoping that when he comes back, he would have distributed some of the books that have been ordered already. It is weekend starting this moment for me. Freddie started his weekend much earlier. We're even battling to tune in because he was already having his weekend going. But finally, the show started. So from me, Rams Mabote, good night and God bless.